All right, guys, it looks like we are live, and I've got a new little layout for us. Uh, some rocking chairs on a porch, and then behind it is an animated swamp.
Neat. Jump on and take a look at that. Test.
Also, I have found two ways to spell, was it VA? Is that how it's
Vise.
Visa? So,
Yeah, Vise.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that is a nice overlay.
there is apparently, it looks like visit with an E is the traditional French spelling. And then there's this one that I got typed up here that came from like a the LSU Cajun language dictionary thing.
Neat.
It is not pronounced the way it is spelled on the screen.
Uh, Before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna change up my name. There we go. I'll change it back tomorrow night.
Yeah, I have to change mine too. But evening, everybody. We're back here for another little sit down, our once a month, just catching up, shooting the shit podcast we do, kitchen table. Um, so I guess let's just start off. How's everybody doing?
I exist.
I'm wore slap out. I've been building walls for 2 days.
I'm exhausted, but that is my own damn fault because Topher came over yesterday and we lore built and world built for the charity game together and also drank entirely too much, as prone to happen if Topher and I are left unattended by more adultier adults.
Yeah, I mean, you give you and Topher like about 8.5 minutes without an Emily supervision, and somebody's toasted.
Oh, it takes more than 8 minutes, but it was
To crack the first one.
but no, what happened is he ended up staying almost till 1 o'clock, and I've learned that staying up to 1 o'clock is just I haven't done that in a minute.
We last night we I I got a wild hair. I've been kind of as far as my hobbies go, kind of floundering, kind of lost here lately. Just trying to find something that sparks that fire. And I've been jumping around to this and that and everything else. And I'm pretty much just kind of stuck on card games at the moment. Like, it was Magic for a minute. It was Magic for a while, and I'm still down on Magic. I'm currently building a couple of commander decks, kind of piecemeal, buying singles, and trying to get that taken in just massive amounts of chicanery and shenanigans in a 100 card deck. Um, and then for that, and then because the kid was kind of interested in it, and it's because it's a card game. I started kind of looking into Pokemon, which we'll get back to that because I think that'll segue into an discussion. Um, because there's a whole world of issues going on right now with the Pokemon card game. Uh, and then yesterday got the wild hair to go into into the old closet and pull out all my card boxes and pulled out all of my Legend of the Five Ring card game shit, which that was that's the game that I fell hard into and played hard for a good 5 years. So I've got a lot of stuff, and also Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, which Vampire: The Eternal Struggle is what I was looking for because it's built from the ground up to be a multiplayer game. Like the ideal minimum amount of people that need to be sitting around a table to play that game is three. Um, and it is a very social game. It is there are like there's one stage and one type of action. It is a political action. You call a referendum, and and you get a number of votes that you get to cast based off of the rank of the minions that you have under your control. If anyone's not familiar with the Vampire the Masquerade, or Vampire the Requiem, or Vampire the Eternal Struggle, the White Wolf vampire games, there are certain cities that have vampires who basically run the city, and they will have different titles. There are two different two main factions, and each one's have their own different titles. But essentially, what it boils down to is the lowest ranked title gets one vote, the middle gets two, and the highest gets. And like you cast votes, and there's cross table political intrigue, and it's great. It's enough to. It makes for an interesting evening playing that game because it's a very social game, which is really nice. Which is kind of jumping on the bandwagon of the reason why we really kind of started playing Commander and Magic, because that's a multiplayer. It's a multiplayer format. You can get a bunch of people, and when I have 9 people at my house on a Saturday, playing a 1v1 card game is not. I mean, we've done it in the past where we've basically done draft turns. But aside from that, playing a 1v1 game is kind of everybody else just kind of sitting around and getting involved in other conversations, which takes away from the game because you get pulled into other conversations and stuff and especially with drinking, you get kind of ADD on it, so you kind of space out and go into other conversations. But being able to have all 9 of those people, if they wanted to, sit down at the table and play in this game, is going to make it hilarious and amazing. So we pulled that out. I'm just trying to find something that can get me through the day, and then I can put on like podcasts on or YouTube videos of and listen to people talk about. That'll keep my interest and keep me from going absolutely insane, because that's an ever looming threat currently.
I've been on a kick lately watching a lady in Florida iguana hunting with a bow in her backyard.
I have heard that it's a unique. Iguana is a unique taste. But from what I understand, depending on how it's cooked, it's pretty damn good. Kind of like gator. It's mainly tail meat. But from what I understand, depending on how it's cooked, it's very very good.
I've been told iguana's got a similar texture to chicken for the most part, is what I've been told. But it doesn't have the same taste.
Yeah, a lot of fast twitch muscle, especially the part. Like I said, it's essentially the tail, and the rear part of the animal that you're. That's like gator. I don't go out of my way to look for gator to eat. I've had it grilled. It's pretty good grilled, and I've had it fried. It's all right fried. It is not good enough and does not have a distinct enough taste and texture for me to pay an extra $6 for fried alligator when I could just get fried catfish. There's not enough of a difference to justify it for me.
At the Texas State Fair years ago, Emily got a gator kebab that was pretty good. But then I've also had gator at different state, like little local fairs and stuff like that, to where it was almost like chewing a piece of rubber because of the way they cooked it.
Yeah, and it's an interesting meat. Reptile meat is always relative. There's a very small golden window in reptile meat, before it goes from good and tender to chew. But that same thing. But I mean, hell, the same thing goes for pork. You cook it too long, you dry it out, and it's dry and chewy, and it's a pain in the ass, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to eat. So it's like anything, but reptiles, from what I understand, that And it goes for like alligator and snake and iguana and any other reptile that you that golden window of done and perfect texture and perfect consistency is relatively.
If we're talking about podcasts, I found a new one this last week that I've been listening to and enjoying. It's called Strange and Unexplained. And
I've heard of it.
I'm blanking on the lady's name other than it's Daisy. I've forgotten her last name, but she's like the youngest female to ever win a Tony. And she's a skeptic. And it's her breaking down like stuff about ghosts. And the one that I just finished was Bigfoot. And she was like, yeah, and the dude didn't, like, she goes, this is why I'm a skeptic. You didn't stop and think, all this weird ass noise in the middle of the wood, let me take out my iPhone and record it. Like,
Yeah.
all you gotta do is hit record. So it's like she's just points out kind of the dumber stuff in some of the stories, but she's 41, so she's, in our age group, Nox, and definitely speaks in a manner that is along those lines. Like she had the very first one's like talking about this. It's called The Watcher, and it's this couple bought a house in New Jersey, and somebody kept leaving them letters saying The Watcher, but they like waited a month or something like that to contact the cops. She's like, no, I would have already had security cameras, contacted the cops, bought a shotgun. Because somebody's sitting there like naming my kids on a piece of paper. Yeah, somebody's going to jail real quick.
If they're lucky.
What'd you say, Cannon?
Taking a dirt nap.
Yeah, that's what about they're going to jail if they're lucky.
Man, that's the big thing. When I like started listing all four of their kids' names in the letters, I'm like, yeah, that's when we're done. That is if I find you, you're in trouble because you just brought my kids into this.
Yeah,
But
that's bye.
But I mean, it's also some of the other things I've been laughing at, just trying to find random podcasts because I'm trying to find like a good cryptid or a good ghost one that's not like one that doesn't take itself seriously is kind of how I found this podcast is. But like when I hear like certain ghost stories or cryptid stories, I'm like, yeah, if this was in the South, whatever was doing that would have been shot at least twice.
Oh, we'd ate it. Yeah, we'd ate it. I mean, the only reason you ain't got coon asses going after the skunk ape, the Florida skunk ape, because well, it's common knowledge in the South. If it smells bad, it's probably going to taste bad. So we got no inclination to go after something that we can't put on rice.
Cthulhu rises from the Gulf of Mexico, and there's just a bunch of Cajuns on the shore of Louisiana. You think
Bobby,
can we fry it?
Cook some Cthulhu rises up, a bunch of fucking Cajuns sitting on the pier going, go cook some rice.
Time to set some lines.
Yeah, also the other podcast is they're starting Aether Sea on the Adventure Zone. I skipped graduation. I made it through the first episode, and I just couldn't do it because the middle brother decided to be the DM this time, and he introduced, I think I counted it, 15 NPCs in the first game.
Oh, that kind of guy.
Well, the thing is he created this very awesome, massive world. Like, think Sky High meets Harry Potter. Like, it's a school for heroes and villainy. Like, to make sure the world is not actually destroyed by something, like, there's a guild for villains and a guild for heroes, and you have to actually go train to be such. And so he created this massive school that the world is beautiful. It would be a great book. But when you do
too much too soon is all.
Exactly.
It's fine to have a metric shit ton of named NPCs that the party interacts with, but you can't drop like you can't drop a 747's worth in the first episode.
So I mean, there's a few other things, and when they talked about it, he mentioned, I'm a better player than I am a DM. And I'm like, okay, that takes a big person to realize that. to admit it, especially on like a podcast. But they played something called the Quiet Year, and it's 4 seasons. Everybody draws a card, and you do lore to the world as it's going.
Nice.
And Chris and I played a truncated version of it because I found the PDF online for the charity game. In fact, I got to reshare that. I got to reshare that stuff with Chris later. Let's see. We got DVA mechanics. In the chat. But
I didn't even know it was broken.
But it's one of those of
Yeah.
we did that, and that just led to this big huge thing. We recorded it. I have no clue if we're going to post it online. Mostly because there is an individual that farts, and it is not me, and it got picked up by the audio. And there's been a request for
It's
it
the
not
dog.
to. No, it's not the dog.
Oh.
So it's been requested to not be posted.
I can only think of one. I can only think of one scenario where that ticks all those boxes, and that means that it's tomorrow night is.
You cut out there, Kyle.
Like there's only one thing that I can think of that ticks all of those boxes, and that all adds up to tomorrow is going hilarious.
No, it was not Emily. I'll go ahead and say it. Topher farted extremely loud, and it actually spiked higher than the rest of the audio. I'm sorry.
Hey,
I didn't want you to mess with Emily over that.
Well, mad props to him for that, because that takes some skill.
But yeah, that's been the big thing this weekend. Ken, you said you're building a house or building walls. Oh, hold on. I gotta step away for a second.
So how'd that go?
I got both my long walls framed, ready to stand up. I got one of my short walls framed, but they're not 100% framed. I've still got about 4 foot to add on to them. But the long wall stood up. I can't get an exact measurement to finish out the layout. So one of them's ready to have its little slightly less than 4 foot added to it and finished up. And I was going to frame the fourth one, but just run out of time. It's supposed to start raining any time now here. And
yeah, here too.
My wife asked me if I was done for the day, and I said, yeah, I've done screwed all I can screw today.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I did get all my materials cut and on the top, so I ain't having to run up and down to get materials, so that's a plus.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to work in the space that you're working. It just makes things so much easier that you ain't gotta take an extra 2 minutes to go grab another 2x4 and bring it where you got to be. It just makes life so much easier. And I've come to realize that with that bench we built, it's just so much easier. I just have everything within arm's reach of you and have a stationary platform that you can work on, that you can cut and build on simultaneously. It's amazing what you can do. It's amazing how easy the work goes when you got the right tools, huh?
Yeah, and believe it or not, if you take the time to do some planning up front, it makes it go smoother as well. Because I was going to build one wall and stand it up, and then build another one and stand it up. And I got to thinking about it. That's a lot of walls to build and stand up, and then be able to get this thing weatherproofed again before this rain comes in. So my decision was, well, I'll get all the walls built. Next weekend, I've got a 3-day weekend, supposed to have 3 clear days. I'll be able to pull the plastic weatherproofing off the top, stand my walls, get a center support built that's higher than walls and get plastic back over it. Then I'll have the space upstairs. I can start moving 2x6s up there and move my chop saw up there and start cutting roof rafters.
Coming along. Coming along.
I was watching my Facebook memories, and it's been 1 year since my lower walls were raised.
Wow. It don't seem like it's been a year.
No, when I look at that picture from last May, where we used the block and tackles to raise the walls, me and my little 95-pound daughter, now looking inside it with everything we've got inside it, it just is. It makes you wonder where the time went.
Yep. Yep. It goes by. This past year has gone by super quick. Seems like you're blinking 3 months ago, and it's the next quarter.
I think July to January, February time frame was nothing but blowing and going for me. I was working 18, 20 hours a day. And
yeah.
I just, toward mid-February, I had to force myself to slow down and take a break.
Yeah, I mean, going balls out and full tilt boogie is, I mean, you get a lot accomplished, but you got to know when to pump the brakes to recoup. Because if you don't, no good. Then eventually, what's going to happen is you're gonna hit that peak of productivity, and then everything's going to start to go downhill from there. You're not going to be nearly as productive because you're too whipped. And then it's going to take even longer to recover from it. And you got to start, and then you got to get your momentum back. So that's why when it comes to stuff like that, I'm real bad for that. Like it's like at the camp trying to clear out the woods after the woods after the hurricane, clear out our trails, and you should work for an hour, take a break, work for an hour, take a break. No, I was blowing and going, and before I knew it, like 4.5 hours had passed by without stopping, and it's just a matter of go get it done. But I've always, you know me, I'm always that kind of person when it comes time to the nitty gritty. It's time to get to work. I don't want to do this. So I'm what I like to call proactively lazy. I don't want to do this. So I'm going to get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible so that I ain't got to do this.
I'm the world's worst about talking myself out of doing something. That's just like these walls this weekend. I had just about talked myself out of doing it. So much so that I didn't start working on it until 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Once I got up there and got started, things just started clicking on moving my plans around on how I was going to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And I got way more done yesterday afternoon, and I actually didn't start till about 1 o'clock today. I milled around and did a few things with the dog and other things around here that I've been wanting to do, and got started on it. Shoot, I built more today than I did yesterday in the same amount of time.
It's amazing once you got a plan in place, and once you start firing on all cylinders, everything fades away, and the only thing there is what you're doing, and that's that, and you know exactly what I say when I say it's that crafting zen. It's that you're sitting in front of your work, and the whole world melts away, and the only thing that exists is what's in front of you, and You just lose track of time, and until you're either done or you're forced to stop because but all of a sudden your body realizes, hey, we should probably drink water at some point in the next, I don't know, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, everybody talks about going out to the woods and walking around, being their safe space and their meditation place. My meditation place is when I got a screw gun or a hammer in my hand and I'm building physical buildings. My mind just all wrapped up in it, and I'm thinking about the plan, thinking about the next step, and just it relaxes me. Even though I'm working my ass off and my body getting fatigued, mentally it relaxes me.
Yeah, and ultimately it boils down to, it's, it's a messed up situation that caused this to be such a high priority. However, it's essentially it's what me, especially me, you, and Hewitt. It's what we have passively been training ourselves for, essentially. Because even before we started, even before I started doing the working on this Star Wars armor and then painting my helmet and doing everything else. It's taken skills that I already kind of had an idea on and would research and watch YouTube videos of in my downtime, because it's something that I enjoy to watch. It's something that I enjoy picking up on different tips, different techniques, and that passive research for entertainment value, and knowing what and how to do certain things in certain situations. And that goes back to restoring, for me, restoring all old tools. And that's something that I to this day I get up in the morning before work, come sit on the porch, drink my coffee, go through into Facebook. All of the vast majority of all of the algorithms for Facebook videos all come up to like Ticey Tube and things of that nature, where the ASMR restoration videos, or they're just taking these old ass things, whether it's an old coffee grinder or a tool of some sort, or a knife or an axe or a bread slicer or a tobacco cutter or something like that, and it's old and rusted and messed up, and restoring it.
Sorry, guys, about that. I'm back.
Oh, not a problem. So when I ended up getting my hands on an old hand plane, on an old jack plane, that was all rusted up and used and not taken care of for 15 or years at least. And I was like, I've done enough passive research, I'm gonna call it, because it sounds more professional and it sounds fancy. It's like, okay, I know how to take this apart, like fully take it apart, because I've watched it done so many times on YouTube. All right, okay. There's a curve in the blade right here. That's not a problem. I've seen that fixed before. I can do that until I get the back up and running, at least back up and run it. And the blade is sharp and the chip breaker's position right, and the thing works. So, like I said, it's something that especially the three of us have. It's what we do in our downtime. I think Hewitt is just like me. I think we came upon him completely separately and didn't really, and two completely separate times. But I watching My Self-Reliance and Sean James in Canada building his own cabin, which started out as a and if anybody that's watching, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up My Self-Reliance, look up Sean James. His stuff is fascinating. He started by building. He had some land in the mountains in Canada. I want to say he's somewhere around Ontario.
I
He
think it's either that or he's in Upper Manitoba.
wanted to. It's vague. It's intentionally vague, which I don't fault him for that.
Well, he's also he's bought a new plot of land now because it got too developed around where he was at. So
Yeah.
he's moved.
And he's it started as he's going to go build his weekend cabin by hand. And he did that, and situations presented itself where he found himself with zero debt, and all of his things and everything that he has paid off, and he was making, and he had a passive income with YouTube. Not really passive, but he was getting paid to do. He was a YouTuber now, just for off of him building the cabin. So he transitioned into a full-time YouTuber and realized he could literally live there and be off the grid and all of that, and then ultimately started working out more outbuildings and an outdoor kitchen and a sauna slash shower house or slash bathhouse and a garden and anticipation, and finally his wife agreed that at January 2020 she would move out there and they would live out they would live out there together. And then COVID hit, and his wife had to leave because both of his daughters were in college, and they couldn't stay in school, so they needed a place to stay. So they ended up getting an apartment. So his wife's not there any longer for now. And then between issues he'd have with his neighbor and new development that was going to be less than, I don't know, 900,000, 1,100 feet away from the back of his cabin was going to be a new road.
Yeah, they just the back end of his property. They cut a new access road, and then it turned out the access road was going to be turned into a highway.
Well, it wasn't that. It was going to be somebody was going to build a leisure cabin out there, but they were going to end up paving the road. And that's ultimately what it was. What it was is that they were going to end up paving the road, and it was going to end up changing how he lived, because now the city is essentially starting to encroach on the wilderness around him, which is what he had set up. But it gave him the opportunity to find this other land that's further out. Start building a new cabin by hand, by his goddamn self, and watching him work and do that and cut the tree and select and drop the trees that he's going to use for his cabin. And like last week or week before, it may have been a week before at least, he essentially dug the basement for the cabin. And going back through, and there was a series that he did on his second channel, Sean James. It's a truncated series of him building the first cabin, and it shows him. It goes through the whole video is a portion of the cabin build, and then the last like 5 or 10 minutes is him talking about what he did, how he did it, what he used, and what he would do different, and what he is going to do different in the cabin. Why what he did worked, and why what he did didn't. And it's going to be really interesting now that I'm following to watch that process happen a second time. Now with
Yeah, I stumbled onto one called Acorn to Arabella. And it's about a couple of guys up in the Northeast that decided to build a 26 or 36 foot sailboat from scratch, and neither one of them knew how to build a boat at all out of wood. They've harvested all the trees off of their property, and I started watching it from the ground up. I went back and watched all their initial videos, and they are finishing up the planking on the hull, and they've already started getting some of the inside of the boat ready. They're about to start decking, and one of the last things they did was trued up a mast from another sailboat they had purchased for parts and bits and pieces. And it's all about how they're going from tree to ship, and they don't know a damn thing about it. They've learned as they went.
Hey,
That's cool.
I think all three of us can 100% say that is some of the best experience that you'll ever have is learning by feel. Putting in it as someone else that I used to watch religiously, and not so much anymore because his priorities have kind of changed in the past 3 or 4 years, and that's Dave Canterbury, or the Pathfinder School, and Self-Reliance Outfitters. His big thing was put in the dirt work. You go and do it. Go and try it. You're either going to do it and be satisfied with the knowledge that I can do it, or you are not going to do it, which will bring you back to the research to find out why what you did didn't work, so that you can go back out and do it the second time and get it. And at that, once you do it, once you sit there and make primitive fire, that's something that you can do now. It literally and smoke comes up, the flames start, and the Xbox trophy logo pops up at the bottom. And that is now something that, number one, you have done, and number two, now it's something that you can do again, because you know that it works, and you know why it works.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Mm-hmm. Until the point it becomes second nature. Now, a lot of my thing was all hand tools. I want to do it all hand tools. I want to refurbish all these old hand tools, and I want to only use that. And then I started building stuff. And then I realized, you know what? This is awesome. And after halfway through the project going, man, I can do this. I can do this all with a hand saw, and a bit and brace, and I can do this. I'm gonna go grab the circular saw and a drill now.
That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of things. So it's like, I know how to do this by hand. I've done it a couple times. Power tools are going to make this easier for me, because I also got a child that I don't trust inside my house right now.
And I'll randomly, like, there are certain small projects where I'll still do it by hand. But however, I don't want to. I don't have a super lot of experience using the power tools either. Which all that means is that's another opportunity, like circular saws. With that circular saw, making sure that I'm cutting on the right place on the line, and that I'm straight, to make sure that it's cut to the proper exact length. That's something that you can only do. It's arguably harder to do with the power tool than it is to do with the handsaw. Now, it's easier to start with the power tool. No, it's easier to start with the handsaw, but there's a whole lot less correction that you can do once you get into realize I started at 90 degrees, and halfway through ended up with almost a 45-degree angle on my cut. That's something that, and once again, that's something you got to put the dirt work in. You gotta do it to know. But the same thing goes with the power tool. Using a router. I had so many problems learning how to use a router until I realized, oh wait, you don't just lock it, you also drop the bar drop the bar on the other side of it so that it chocks the plate in place so that it can't travel. You can't gain, and it doesn't continually start to drop as you.
Yep.
It took like literally four projects before I realized, okay, this is why I've been having this problem.
Now,
And I got myself a brand new set of chisels, and I love those things.
see, I just the big project I just finished is Boss Kyle bought a piece of cherry that had a big old knot hole in it that I don't think I mentioned this last time, but he ordered the epoxy resin, and I plugged all the holes, filled them in, and I got the top of that thing smooth as damn glass. Like, it is first time I've done a tabletop live edge, and it is a beautiful piece of old cherry that he got for like $15. And his dad bought the pipes. I don't care for like the black pipe style legs and like, oh, I'm gonna bolt these in the wall and put a piece of wood on it. My thing is, if I'm gonna make it out of wood, I want it either all out of wood or I want it all out of metal. Like, I don't really like mixing the two too much.
Yeah.
But that might also be because my metalworking is not that's something eventually I will get into, but I just don't have the time right now. But yeah, so got that done. All other projects for me right now are on halt though, because the house is moving forward, and I don't want to be in the middle of putting together a table or anything like that and then have to move the son of a bitch. So I also don't have money to spend on resources for projects right now because I do not know how much it's going to cost to fix things in that house.
Yeah.
But we're getting
And
2,500 back on the sell, so that should take care of my fuse panels.
hey. Yeah, well, and the fact that lumber is almost more expensive than almost expensive as gold right now is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last report I heard on lumber for the futures on lumber, $1,600 and something a thousand board foot is what they're getting for lumber now, and the landowners and the loggers are still only getting $20 a ton for it.
I mean, and it's gonna from the little bit of research that I did on it, it's gonna come back down. It just may take about at least. It'll take at least another year before the prices settle back down.
I've heard that we're going to see a drastic decline in price between now and the first of the year because the supply is there, but there's no demand because the prices are so high, and these companies are selling this stuff, and they only look at what they sell on a monthly basis, and they'll look this month and say, oh, 2x4 studs are selling great, jack them up 50 cents. And then 30 days later they come back, well, the 2x4 studs are not selling. We've got this many hundreds of thousands in stock. Drop the price, because if they've got it in stock, it's not making them money. It's costing them money. They've got to sell it in order for it to make them money. And that's where we're going right now. The supply and demand's about to change, where demand is going to stop, supply is there, So the supply chain is going to have to drop the price in order to elevate the demand.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point now where a lot of the things that were sustaining those prices being as high as they were, i.e., the hurricanes that we had this year. A lot of that stuff is starting to wind. There's a lot of people that are they're finished. Their houses are now fixed. So that uptick in demand is.
There was a big uptick in demand when everybody sent their folks home from work because of this pandemic. Now people are going back to work. They don't have time to work on these home projects that they were working on before, so that demand's dwindling.
Yeah, that as well. So it'll resettle, and then when it does, that's when I'm really gonna start hitting the woodworking table hard. I think the next project that I want to do, is I put together for Magic the Gathering. I put together what is known as Cube, which is it's a curated set of cards that you pull 3 packs of 15. You pull 15 card packs out of this curated group of cards. Take one, you pass it to the left until that whole pack's gone. You take the next pack, pass it to the right, and you do that until all the cards are gone. And you build a deck based off with what you have, and you play. And what we will basically do a tournament, and then typically we do like a losers bracket as well. But I want to build a custom card box for it that has everything. The actual cube itself is gonna sit in its own chamber, and then I'll have sections for lands and tokens and anything else that's needed to use it. And I want it'll be it'll be completely curated. Be able to print and inlay some 3D print and some things and inlay them into the box itself, which should be, especially now that I know how to use a router, which would be really cool. That way, that's done and taken care of, and it lives in that box because it's a curated bunch of cards. There's not really going to be much added to or taken away from it, and eventually we'll upgrade it because right now it's full of common and uncommon cards. So it's what is known as a pauper cube because it's all cheap cards, and eventually we'll start upgrading slowly over time, building the collection of the rarer cards to put into it to make it really good. But that it's a set amount of cards. So something comes in, if you put something in, something comes out. So it's always going to be that 450 to 600 card, or however I want to say it's like 6. So it'll always be that 600 cards.
See, once lumber prices go down, I'm gonna get a hold of a 1x6 so I can shave it down to about 5 inches. Because Vincent has developed an addiction to the D&D vinyl figurines that are popping up in game shops. Like the dragon. He has the goblin, the black dragon, the flump, the griff, and I got him a mimic for his birthday. But so I was going to build him one of those like little cross shelves, the one that looks kind of like a pound sign. And make that so they could be on his wall. But again, don't want to make that and then have to move it. Also, I'm not paying that for a 1x6.
Yeah.
I'm not paying that right now. It is literally cheaper for me to go to a sawmill and get hardwood than it is for me to get pine right now. Like we paid $30 and I got two 10-foot cypress boards that are at the bottom end about 16 inches wide and at the top about 5 inches wide, from a guy who had cut up a cypress tree on the back end of his property. And then there's the older guy I've gone to that I got a whole bunch of walnut for $25. I got over $100 worth of walnut for $25.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at, I'm thinking seriously about getting a tenaning jig kit that lets me cut tenons on logs so I can harvest trees from my own property in order to build log furniture and outbuildings with tenons.
Nice.
I got plenty of small pine trees that need to be harvested so I can thin to let some of the other pines get bigger. And there's some areas I need to take some trees down. So I'm going to take them down rather than use them as firewood, make something useful out of them. I can use them for fence rails. I can use them for stalls for donkey pen, chicken coops, whatever. Whatever I need where in place of lumber, I can use the log.
That is, you definitely have it with all the land you're on. I'm surprised you hadn't already looked into a sawmill or something like that to take advantage of it.
I got a bandsaw mill.
That
But,
doesn't surprise me.
Speaking of chickens, I think I've won that argument for next year.
I love chicken. But
I've been told they will be 100% my responsibility. She doesn't want them. That I'll have to take care of them. I gotta get the eggs. Yeah, until she actually sees the chickens.
until she falls in love with the damn birds.
Pretty much.
Who wants to put 10 to 1 odds it'll take less than 30 days?
That's gonna the odds on that are gonna be highly dependent on whether they get adult chickens or chicks.
It'll be chicks. That's what we got around here.
Oh yeah, you would. Oh yeah, I'm out. You're gonna that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I don't think that I'm not a gambling man, but I know that would be me losing money.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's gonna take like a week of her walking into the backyard and hearing the peep 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 whenever she walks up to the chickens before the heart starts to melt and they become her.
So, but yeah, that's down the line. The big things that, like, I know that there's going to be a garden because I have there's enough backyard to put 1.5 of the house I'm getting in the backyard. Like it's a half acre, but it's long and skinny. So, very big backyard. Gonna be big garden. Gonna get chickens.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I gotta dig up a pipe that is the drain for the washing machine because there's a hole in it. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I'm gonna pay a plumber to do it because it connects to the gray water system sewage for the entire parish. I ain't messing with that.
Yeah.
And then I gotta get some old fuse panels changed out, and then there is a rafter that is trying to roll that I'm going to have to put back in place and brace and screw in. But that's the only reason that one's going to suck is because it's in the attic and attics are hot.
They are.
And you nor I are specifically built to go into attics easily.
That is 100. That is a 100% fallacy. You would be surprised how agile my big ass is in an attic. But then again, having to do it for 11 for 15, kind.
And the key to that is knowing where to and where not to put your feet.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, I know that. It's just I've always hated having to watch where I'm stepping while doubled over because I literally have 2.5 to 3 feet of walking space in the dead center of an attic.
Mm-hmm.
I missed my parents' attic when they lived on Park Avenue. Whoever had owned that house before them had floored the entire attic. So that was the most convenient. Even though I was doubled over, I did not have to watch where I stepped. But my brother-in-law did not pay attention and nearly knocked himself out hitting a joist. So, or hitting a rafter. But yeah, June, I'll probably be hitting y'all up for some help moving stuff in because I'm going to try to do the repairs that I know I need to do and then paint. But I think I might have wood floors underneath everything. Hello? Hmm. It looks like, folks, Discord has crashed for us. So give us some time. I'm still waiting for it to fire back up on my end and get back to everybody else. Hello? Hello?
There you are.
Yeah, Discord just crapped the bed for a second there, I think. Did anyone else get kicked off?
Yeah, I'm back now, though.
But I don't know what came through last when I said, but I was going to say sometime in June I'll probably be asking people to help me move. But right now I'm wanting to get back in the house to find out if there's wood underneath the floor or not, because there's wood in the bottom of the bathroom cabinets. And the bathroom floor is a 1/2 inch above where that wood is. So there's also places in the living room when you step, it sounds like wood. So I'm wanting to find out if I got that below there or not. Because if I do, that saves me a whole lot of money. Like a whole lot of money.
Yep.
Because I could just sand and then refinish. Which I found out, and I didn't know this beforehand, because I'd never looked into it. They make giant oscillating sanders for jobs like that.
Oh yeah, they make giant belt sanders that you can walk behind like a floor buffer for jobs like that too.
I do not need to know these things because now I'm going to want to rent a tool and use it. Because, one, I know how to. Two, that sounds really cool to play with for all intents and purposes, and lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
What the key to that big bubba of a belt sander is, don't keep that bad boy in one place for too long or you'll be like Tim and Taylor. It'll go through the floor.
Wait. So, see, I think we've hit an hour, so I think maybe one last thing we can talk about, then it'll be time to sign off. I know that I'm testing again this next week because I'm always testing when standardized testing happens because of different certifications I have and that I actually show up to do it. But yeah, so that's the big thing is I've been dealing with trying to get kids up for standardized testing. Like, hey, if you don't show up, you're going to fail me and then have to take me again next year. And I'm going to be meaner next year. So why don't you try to get done while I'm still nice? It has worked on a couple of them. There's other ones like, you can't make me. I'm like, okay, cool. See you next year.
Yep. Yeah.
You're breaking up there, Nox.
Oh, yeah. Why are you being hard on me? Because you did this already.
Like I had 2 students show up Friday and start yelling at me about when they got to take this test. Why weren't they told about taking this test? And I was like, first off, I don't know who either of you are. And then they said their names. I'm like, okay, cool. How you not know who we are? Like you've attended 5 days total together. So I don't know who you are because you also refuse to turn on webcam. So I know that your name and a little black box. That's all I knew about you. I can't tell you anything about testing because I legally can't test you in the subject I taught you. So you need to go down to guidance, and guidance sent them home and said, come back next Wednesday. That's when we're doing your makeup. We were going to help you, but you acted a fool. Like the number, like we told all the kids, end of year testing is at school. Even if you are a digital distance learner, you had to come to school to take your test. No one told me I had to come up to the school to take this test. I was like, okay, we posted it online. We sent emails. We made phone calls. It's on Google Classroom. Oh, I've never been in your Google Classroom. I was like, well, that explains your grade. So I'll see you next year. Is what I said to the one that has never attended class ever and got upset that I didn't know who he was. So hopefully next year we will, Louisiana will still offer distance learning, but they will be in a specific distance learning class with a distance learning teacher, and they will not be mixed in with the kids who are physically in class. But they're also going to require a lot more because they've learned from this year that if they don't require anything, kids don't do it. But by August, everybody should have had the vaccine, or enough people have had the vaccine to get a bit of a herd immunity, so that it should stop spread, and we should be able to have somewhat normalish school. But I guess the other thing with that's connected to school is I'm going to get paid to teach kids D&D this summer.
And that in itself.
$30 for $30 an hour, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, 3 weeks. That's called painting money.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited that I convinced them that you can use D&D as an enrichment program in school.
Oh God, Jay.
But does anybody else have anything else to talk about?
Off the top of my head.
Off the top of my head, no, unless somebody wants to come help raise some walls.
If I had time, I would. I've just had every bit of free time taken from me for the next 2 months, though.
Oh, I'm gonna make it happen. They ain't near as heavy as the last ones, but y'all saw what I did with the other ones that I didn't have a whole lot of help with. Me and my 95-pound daughter raised 240-foot, 8-foot walls with sheathing on the front of them with blocks and tackle. I still got to block and tackle and rope if I had to have it.
Once you get the walls up, will Jake be able to help you do anything?
Yeah. Well, he won't be able to he won't help me put the sheathing on the scaffold on the outside, but once I start the roof rafters inside where he doesn't have to look over the edge, he should be able to.
Yeah, when you told me he was scared of heights, I was like, oh, this is the wrong place to be at.
Yeah, I'm having to rethink my 60-foot tall tower I want to build. Of course, it's going to happen. I may have to figure out how I can do it by myself, but it's going to happen. I'm going to have a rappel tower.
Well, I think with that, noting that Cannon's going to have a rappel tower, which I know Cannon. You said you're going to build it, so I know it's going to happen. So now I just feel like there's going to be a Google Earth image of your property that has what looks like Isengard rising up out of the middle of the woods.
Just going to be a small square. If I build it the way I want to build it, it's going to be a 12 by 12. It's going to be 70 feet tall. The top floor is going to be the rappel and it's going to have ramparts around it. So if I need to take shots at something off in the distance, I can. And it being 60 feet tall, you divide that by 8, and that's going to be how many floors it's got in it, and those are going to be little cabins that can be rented out.
Nice. Nox, if you're saying something, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Something. It don't mean I'm back.
You're breaking up kind of bad, though.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I think with this note and Discord kind of trying to hate us for a minute, it might be a good place to stop for this month and pop back in June.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Yep, and we'll work on a date to get a finance crypto round table going outside of the kitchen table. Maybe do something on another night whenever team bonus action is free, and maybe do something on a regular basis so some of these younger folks can learn a little bit about finance and things that they're not learning in school about it, and things that's not being passed on how to build your wealth and how to be more self-sufficient and self-reliant on what you actually earn.
See, I think we got it set up to where there's going to be 2 Wednesdays a month open for Roundtable. And all you got to do is say, I want this date, and then you're in charge of getting that stuff together. Who's going to stream it for you, and who are your guests? So just grab, I think it's the 2nd and 4th. So if you want one, just claim a date.
All right, I'll start working on getting some folks together, and we'll set something up.
Cool. Nox, would you do the sign off for us?
Well, we appreciate y'all coming and hanging out with us while we, like we say, we visit and sit down and chat with each other. And we appreciate y'all spending the time with us and sitting around the kitchen table. And y'all come back in June when we do it again. This looks like this is going to be a regular thing now. So until next time, folks, don't let your meatloaf.